Welcome everyone. My name is Dr. Shubda Chaudhary and I'm the founder of Middle East Insights platform. I'm making this particular video specifically because I understand the Israel-Palestine conflict in detail. Secondly, I have been to most of the countries in Middle East and have empirical experience. Thirdly, and most importantly, from the human angle of it, I have friends in Israel, in Gaza, in West Bank, and in Lebanon. So it's important that we do break some myths that are revolving around this entire complex historical issue where there has been massive suffering on both the sides, and having the binary thinking that one side is correct and the other side is wrong in the name of maximalist and absolutist, it will carry on with the agenda of conflict. So the first myth or the first question: Israel existed in the area today that we call as Israel 3,300 years before. That is true. But it was not unified. There were many other tribes, like Israelites were also called as tribes. There were many tribes. The broader region was called as a region of Canaan. It was only around during the time of 1000 BC when King David Solomon ended up unifying this kingdom. So who were exactly these tribes that were staying there? The tribes were basically Israelites, Philistines that came from the area of the Aegean region, which is between Greece and Turkey, and also the Canaanites, who were Jebusites, Moabites, Ammonites, and others. Now, Israel definitely, the kingdom of Israel definitely was a sovereign entity. We are talking about 11th century BC. The second myth is that there is no alphabet called as P in Arabic. The European phonology and the Arabic phonology, these are different. So in Arabic, it is called as Philistine. Palestine is the colonial name, or in fact, I'll tell you how the name was given during the course of the 4-month Israel-Palestine course that I'm going to start actually from November 20th. The entire idea here is that in the English vocabulary, Philistine means someone who is uncultured, not having a very clear, distinct taste in music, culture, language. Palestine as a terminology or as a state did not exist when it comes to 3,000 years before or 3,300 years before. And that's a fact. Third myth, being anti-Semitic is actually being anti-Jewish. No. Semitism is actually tracing back from the origin of languages. Semitic people were those who spoke Semitic languages. The Semitic languages are Jewish, Arabic, Aramaic, others. So the Semitic people are Arabs, Jews, Assyrians, and everyone who speaks the Semitic language. So Arabic, Hebrew, all of them are Semitic languages. Now, why did suddenly you'll ask that why anti-Semitism is all about being anti-Jewish? It would have been easier, to frame it as the discourse of racism, which is happening to Jews all around the world currently as we speak. But it was in the 19th century when the German journalist William Merr basically decided that anti-Semitism is specifically about Jews or being against Jews. No, it's not. The next myth is So, how did the term Palestine arise? The term Palestine was first used by Romans actually after the Bar Kokhba in 135 AD and called the province as Syria Palestinia. Now you'll ask that was Israel colonized? Yes. In fact, by a lot of powers, the kingdom of Israel was colonized by a lot of powers. So talk about Babylonians, talk about Assyrians, Greeks, Persians, the Ottomans, and the British. Yes, that's a fact. Next, under the British Mandate, which continued from 1920 to 1948, the Palestine term was used to refer to Jews, Christians, and Muslims. The area which the designated area of the British Mandate. Everyone was called a Palestinian in this colonial language. So, if you think that no, there are no Palestinian Jews, then you're wrong. There are Palestinian Jews, specifically who lived. There was a time where Jews, Christians, Muslims lived together in peace. So, those and the generation of those families that have connections with the homeland in that way, they refer to themselves as Palestinian Jews. Next, the myth is that the British Mandate 1920 to 1948 did not control the area that you today call as Palestine. That is again wrong. The British Mandate did control the area of Israel, West Bank, Gaza, and Jordan. In 1921, 77% of the territory was given to Transjordan, which would eventually, under the British colonialism, become the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. The remaining part continued under the British Mandate to be called as Palestine. Next, the Peel Commission of 1937. Violence and unrest between the Arabs and Jews. Yes, it took place. Now you'll ask why? Were the only Arabs trying to have violence? Jews were not involved? No, there are maximalists and absolutists in every part of the conflict. Be it Urgun or Haganah, that were also involved in terrorist activities. The Arabs militant were also involved in terrorist activities. Now, talking about early 90s, significant Jewish immigration took place to the area called as Palestine in the British Mandate. There was massive suffering. I do not have to speak about the Holocaust, the pogrom caused in Russia. The Dreyfus Affair and so many other details I will teach in my course. The birth of Zionism. Why did Zionism start? Not every Jew is a Zionist. There's a significant population of Jews from Europe started migrating. There are many popular celebrities like Frank Sinatra and many others, which I'll teach in my course, that were involved, how the entire process of immigration was carried out. So it was quite obvious that the conflict will start. The Arabs, now the Arabs here, I'm speaking Arab Christians, Arab Muslims, Arab Jews, would have a problem because there was a class and social capital difference. Those coming from Europe had better machinery, farming technology, knowledge, scientific knowledge. They, when competing with the Arab traders, had more advantage. They had more experience. They were socioeconomically much more privileged. That created a certain kind of economic unrest, which propelled. So the violence happened from both the sides. Talk about that. Yes, it is a promised land. It is a promised land not only for Jews. It is a promised land for a lot of Armenian Christians, for Muslims, and definitely for Jews. We have to go into the detail of the destruction of the first temple, the second temple, what is the Wailing Wall, to understand the discourse in reality. But if we talk about that The promised land was only this, and it was not politically motivated. Then we have to know that the British actually gave a couple of other options also. Uganda, for example, for the Jews to settle, Argentina, Madagascar, and the British Mandate, Palestine. The Zionists used this entire negotiation for their favor because it's a promised land. And in Judaism, to be honest, Moses is the only prophet who has actually seen God. None of the other prophets have seen God. And Moses himself was never able to see the promised land. There's an entire reason why it took place, even though he was able to rescue Jews from the pharaonic captivity in Egypt, crossing the Red Sea. And we'll discuss that further in the course. The next myth is that Arab citizens in Israel, yes, there are 20% of them, are actually equal as Israeli citizens. Yes, they are. Politically, yes, they can vote. They have the same rights. But let me talk about, let's go into the devil is in the details. They have difficulty because the housing is managed by Jewish National Fund. So most of the Israeli Arabs do not get easy access to housing. The Arab schools in Israel do not have the same kind of funding. The Arabs, Israeli Arabs, if they're equal, they're not allowed to enroll in the military conscription of IDF. We are never equal. Equality has always been a facade. I'm not talking only about this conflict. I'm talking about the concept of equality from Athens, from US, the concept of democracy and all of it. The next myth that I'm going to talk about is that it's not a genocide. It's unfortunate that I have to speak about it. But in the course, we are going to detail every other genocide convention, Geneva Convention, human rights, International Court of Justice, International Criminal Court, all the provisions of it. Wikipedia has recently mentioned it as a genocide, not that it's an accomplishment. But the fact that no historical claim justifies ethnic cleansing of any form. If you're interested in this course, you have to be open-minded. We have to respect Israel and its right to exist. We have to respect the Palestinians and their right to exist. The fact that, coming to the next myth, there's the Palestinians who have never taken a peace proposal. No. Just Google who killed Yitzhak Rabin, the protagonist who was talking for Israel in the Oslo Accords. Yes, there are a lot of, like when Israel basically established itself on 14th of May, 1948, 15th of May, 1948, there was complete war against Israel. Yes, it's true. Why? Because we don't talk about the Al-Nakba. More than 7 million Palestinians had to leave their homes. 400 to 500 Palestinian villages were destroyed. This was not happening 3,000 years back. This was happening in 1948. So there's a reason no event takes place in isolation. So for those of you are interested, there are many tidbits. When Israel declared itself independent, it was not given independence. How did Truman, who was very anti-Zionism, did not even talk about it, did not want the US president, he was hardly considered or concerned about the cause. He changed his mind in 5 seconds. Who was the friend that changed his mind? So there are many nitty-gritties of it. And all we need to have is empathy.